Welcome to the channel, Terry.
Hey, thank you, Mercy. It's great to be here. I'm excited to meet you. So thanks for inviting me.
Terry Harris is the author of the fictional book Love Remains, a Mercy House novel. It's about a young woman dealing with loss and grief, and specifically grief from coming from pregnancy and infant loss. I want us to really delve into this because some may find themselves wondering, how does one cope after losing the life they carried for months, only to sadly lose them?
Yeah, well, that's such a big question and one that is very individual because everybody grieves differently. But yeah, that is a lot of what the book deals with is the main character dealing with the loss of her baby and miscarriage. And part of the conflict is because her husband grieves differently and that causes issues in their marriage. And so I think that as far as how one deals with that loss, it's very personal, and especially with the the fact that a baby hasn't been born yet and the people haven't connected with the baby, the mom is really the one that has to, well, the parents that they're dealing with that grief, but often, especially if it was an early miscarriage, maybe that people didn't even realize that she was pregnant, she's kind of grieving alone. And specifically for the women that are featured in this book, which is fictional, but the home is not fictional that they stay at, and so it often has women who are, well, it is catering to women who are single and pregnant, find themselves just in circumstances where they're alone and they need that support. But if there's a miscarriage or the death of an infant, even, um, they're often left to care to grieve alone. And so I think it's really important that I think your generation is so much better about bringing things out into the open than when I was a young mom, because I did suffer a miscarriage and I dealt with grief for years because I don't feel like I was able to fully grieve that loss because um, not many people did even know that I was pregnant. So that definitely makes it difficult.
Yeah, it definitely does. Infant loss during marriage is actually one of the reasons that marriages dissolve. So I think it's wonderful that we're speaking on this because we can help women who are going through this situation. And you're right, we are in a day and age where things that were taboo to speak about, which weren't spoken out in the open, are now being brought out in the open. So it's one of the reasons why I wanted us to have this conversation. Now, how did you find yourself coping after your miscarriage?
Well, much like the character in the book, um, I felt anger towards my husband because he grieved differently, and I saw it as, oh, he's not affected by this like I am, and it really took actually after a much later time. Well, I mean, definitely forgave him because and realized that people grieve differently early on because of the story of David and Bathsheba. When that first baby was died, David, when he was grieving and begging God to save this child's life while the child was dying, and then he got up and cleaned himself up after fasting and praying, and this was after the baby died, and he went on, and it kind of, that story helped me to see that you can still grieve and care and feel the depth of a loss, but yet move on in your own way. And move on is such a term that I don't like to use because although we do move on, it's so different for each person, and we're different people because of how we've been impacted by that loss. And that's I think as far as marriage and how it affects it, I think grace and love is so important because um, we're all different people. We're all different personalities. We all have different ways of uh, dealing with things. And so being able to have grace and forgiveness for one another makes just really goes a long way toward restoring relationships. One other thing that is worth touching on in that is that once, with David and Bathsheba, that's another thing that God always does bring around things to good out of our circumstances. He works all things together for good for those who love him and are called according to his purposes. And so um, knowing that even in David and Bathsheba's experience, which started off as a taboo relationship, and then went into the death of the child, the first baby, and then King Solomon was born from that union. And so God does work all things together for good, and I think going into things with a mindset of being able to trust God, even though you don't understand why things are happening the way they're happening, being able to trust that He will still work it all together for good. And He will, even though we can't understand God's mind, the Bible tells us that His thoughts are higher than our thoughts, His ways are higher than our ways. And but we can understand, I believe, we can understand His heart. And His heart is for us. His heart is what we hear about when we read the Bible, his love towards us. And so knowing and trusting that He will take care of us through it all, and He will bring good out of it eventually.
Yes, I believe that it's important to rely on God in such a difficult circumstance. And you opening up about your own personal experience with what happened in your marriage, with seeing your husband grieve in a different manner than you did, and seeing that you both were able to reconcile or forge that relationship that you had in the beginning once again, is so important for people to hear so that they know that it's possible after enduring such a loss that you guys can get your relationship back and cope with what had happened. Yes.
Yeah.
In many cultures, having a child out of wedlock is still very much taboo. So, from your own experience of working around women in these circumstances, how would you advise parents or loved ones to go about this?
Well, I think, as a parent of adults now, young adults, that being able to keep lines of communication open is so important. And I think that, we find at Mercy House that those who do have the family support, even though, often the women are there because of strained relationships or because they don't have support, we often see reconciliation happening because of the transformation that takes place at Mercy House, just what God does through the women coming into that program. He changes hearts. And so, being able to see them open up and want to reconcile with their family is beautiful. But from the family's perspective, dealing with an unexpected pregnancy, unplanned pregnancy, again, love love covers everything, and um, love is the fulfillment of the law, as the Bible tells us. And so I think that if the parents can look beyond the the disappointment of it, because I'm sure that there is disappointment on all parts of, this is not how I planned it. This is not what I was expecting to happen for my loved one. But understanding that every child is a gift from God, regardless, and being able to keep that relationship alive and open so that you can have input into that baby's life when the baby's born. Or if the pregnancy does end in miscarriage, as in, this book talks about some, you have that ability to come alongside your loved one and let them know that you're grieving with them. And that's critical. I think that's critical when someone's dealing with a miscarriage, is to know that they're not alone.
It's so important for teens who are pregnant to have a community of people in their lives, such as their parents. So I think it's wonderful that you are able to see in your own ministry, while you associate with Mercy Homes, that parents do eventually come back into the children's lives. And I think what would be beneficial would be having them at the very beginning stick by their children, which is what I feel like all of us would hope for. But it's so wonderful knowing that reconciliation is possible and that you can fix and mend your relationships with your own children, because the stigma is really tough. It's really tough because you don't know what to do in your community with about what people think about your child having a baby out of wedlock. There is heavy stigma on that. And it takes a really strong person, and the parents need to be strong during this time to come and hold their children's hands and say, it's going to be okay. We're here with you. Okay. In the book, you greatly mention a Mercy House, which you just stated. And I understand that it's a shelter for single pregnant women. So tell us about these ministries.
Yeah. So Mercy House is this home in Texas where I've volunteered for years, and it brings in women, single pregnant women in crisis situations typically, and that crisis can range anywhere from having coming out of an abusive relationship with the baby's daddy to simply not having whether it's financial or emotional support from the family, whatever it is, just not having the support that they need. And so I think they have a whole program to help the women learn how to be great moms and know that they can raise this baby successfully and for the Lord. And it's mentoring women in nutrition, in parenting skills, in financial skills, and in spiritual mentoring, which is, it's a very holistic approach to developing great parents, and which then leads to the stability of the child. And even if the woman, well, she's a single mom, and so she's got a lot of responsibility to take care of, and so they're setting her up for success in that. But it's amazing to me how, as I mentioned before, God uses that whole program as a change agent for just transforming these women's lives. And as far as other Mercy houses, that's the only one in this ministry. But I can tell you, it was started, the woman who started it is a friend of mine, and she simply saw a need. She saw that women didn't have a place to turn. They were choosing to have abortions because they didn't have any other alternative, that they couldn't imagine how they were going to be able to raise this baby alone. And so she brought in women and mentored them and coached them through those stages and set them off successfully. And so it started off very small and has since grown to where they have house parents that come in and or that stay with the girls. There's a whole board that runs the ministry, and it is very replicable is what I'm trying to say. So I'm sure that they would love to help someone get started if they wanted ideas on how to set up a home like that for single pregnant women in crisis. And you can reach them at mercyhouse.org. Yeah, you can contact me too, and I would be happy to connect you with them.
That's wonderful. Listeners, I hope you're taking note of everything that she's saying in order to get started on your own Mercy House. Guys, I love that your friend took the initiative to jumpstart a Mercy House in your own community. And I think it's so beneficial to have teens or people of all ages who don't have a community behind them to go to a center, a home where they can meet with other people in their same situation and get information and learn how to care for their newborn and get the necessities they need to care for the newborn and also learn how to be better parents. And it provides them a foundation, like a place to stay until they do get on their own feet and get a job or get a home of their own. And I think that this is such a wonderful idea, which is why I'm asking you in the book, which you greatly mentioned this Mercy House. I understand that it's a shelter for single pregnant women, as we've discussed. So, the world's in need of more of these mercy houses for women dealing with unplanned pregnancies. How can people start one in their own communities?
Oh, I think it would be as simple as my friend started out, and that would be just inviting someone in need into your home and mentoring them. And, as you promote the ministry, you could set yourself up as a ministry with, I'm not sure what the laws are in Kenya for this, but in the US, you would set up a 503c nonprofit organization to be able to set yourself up as a ministry. And you can start taking donations then to gain support to help build out a program like that. But it starts as simple as just inviting someone into your home and coaching them through that process. There's lots of other ministries that are involved to help Mercy House. One of them is also featured in the book, and it's Embrace Grace, which I'm not sure how widespread that is, but it is nationwide in the U.S. And it is simply women that are starting groups, Embrace Grace groups, to mentor single moms. And, they do beautiful things like just throwing a baby shower for these single pregnant moms who don't have a community around them, and just kind of breathing life into them that you can be a good mom, you can raise this child successfully, you can do it, and we're a community to support you. And they're not providing a home, but they are providing that community that you're speaking of, that can make a difference in a young woman's life who's facing an unplanned pregnancy alone.
I love that it's just as easy as inviting and welcoming someone into your own home and just starting from there and obviously researching the laws in your own city or country as to how to go about it. Because, guys, this is such a wonderful ministry to help others. So, other real life ministries are highlighted in the book. What can you tell us about those?
Okay. Ooh, that's tough because there's a few of them. Embrace Grace that I mentioned. And then also one that I am deeply connected with, and that's Moms in Prayer, which that is a worldwide organization. And it's a groups of moms all over the world that get together to pray for their children in schools. Well, how I had volunteered at Mercy House was starting a Moms in Prayer group there to pray not for the school, but for their children in the womb, uh, and just begin praying for them there, and mentoring moms in how to pray. And Moms in Prayer really mentored me in how to pray. And I think that it's a fantastic organization. You can find out lots about it at momsinprayer.org. And then the other one that is a big one is that I'm also connected with is Cross Counsel Ministries. And that website, I believe, is crosscounsel.org. And it's counsel, Counsel. And so it's a counseling ministry, but it's a freedom ministry. And so it focuses on emotional healing through a certain process called the melt process, where you go to a memory and you let that emotion come up from that, and then you figure out what beliefs you have there, what lie you're believing, and then discovering truth from that. And how you discover the truth is just inviting inviting the Holy Spirit to just speak into your heart at that point. Because it is, it's basically a therapy session where you're inviting the Holy Spirit to be your therapist. So it's really beautiful. There's a facilitator that typically will walk you through those steps, and she'll ask you those questions to get you to that point of where you help you figure out what you really are believing, and then invite the Holy Spirit to speak. And then, yeah, it's truly a transformational ministry. So everybody can benefit from that.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing the resources that helped you. So, listeners, you too can go and research those very same websites and get some help for yourself too. Okay, I'm sure listeners are curious by now about your new book, Love Remains, a Mercy House novel. So, tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I have a copy right here. You can find it on Amazon, or or most online stores. It is, you can also find it on my website, which is terrytamashiroharris.com. And yeah, I'll spell that. It's Terry with a Y, Terry, Tamashiro, Tamashiro, Harris, Harris.com. And yeah, so the book, it's about a young woman who, as we discussed, is dealing with grief. And so she goes to volunteer at this home called Mercy House. And that's not the actual Mercy House, but this is a fictionalized Mercy House. And when she's there, just kind of all the stuff that she experiences working with these women in crisis pregnancies, help her kind of just come back to God, basically. So it's a kind of a transformation journey through her healing, and also kind of back to her Christian faith, which she had walked away from during her teen years and college years. And so kind of rediscovering God for herself rather than the God of her parents, and just really recognizing that a relationship with Jesus is real, and that in the end, well, I won't do any spoilers, but she does come to the point of being able to see a glimpse of how the impact that her baby, even though the baby was never born, made an impact in her life. Still, it changed her as a person. And so the life of that baby was still very impactful, even though it never took a breath on this earth.
So, guys, if you want to grab a hold of this copy, you need to head on over to Amazon, because Love Remains, a Mercy House novel is being sold online and it's available for purchase right now. And all proceeds from the book sales go to support Mercy House Ministries. Well, Terry, it's been wonderful having you on.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been fun. And yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. And Terry, you're welcome back anytime. If you enjoyed this talk, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss a video. I'll see you all next time. Thank you so much for watching.